continue with Unit 4 of the AP Computer Science course, which is on iteration. Iterative statements, all better known as loops, are statements that can change the control flow of a program by repeating a certain set of statements until a certain condition is reached. So they repeat a set of instructions until condition is reached. Let's look at one kind of loop. It's called the while loop. A while loop executes the body of a loop while a Boolean expression is true. Let's look at a while loop starting right here. This is an if statement. An if statement, as we saw earlier, executes just once and only executes if the condition is true. So here's 2 points. The if statement executes only once, and it only executes if the condition right here, this Boolean, is true. So if condition has the value true, any code that goes in here will be executed. A while loop is similar, except with while statements, any code inside the while statement is continuously repeated while this condition is true. Meaning that so long as this condition is true, any code in here will keep on being repeated, and it can go on for potentially forever, where we can get cases of infinite loops, where Boolean expressions of a while loop is always true, so the loop will never end. However, good programming practices prevent loops from going on forever, and a while loop will usually have some sort of statement inside that will prevent the condition from returning true an infinite amount of times. Let's look at the sample code on the right side. So we have right here an integer called val that's being assigned the value 0. Okay, so let's look at this while loop right here. This while loop says while val is less than 5, print out this statement, and then increment val by 1. Remember that this is the same as val equals val plus 1. That's equivalent. So let's look at what will happen if knowing that val is 0. So since val is 0, 0 goes right here, 0 is less than 5, right? So since 0 is less than 5, the program is going to go into the while loop, and it's going to look at this statement, which basically just prints out the value of val. So it's a value 0. Since val is currently 0, it prints this out to the console. And let's just assume this is our console. Now, we have this statement where val is incremented by 1. So val is no longer 0, val is 1. Okay, knowing that val is 1, the while loop still executes again. Since val is 1, 1 is still less than 5. So long as this condition is true, which it still is, even with val being incremented, we go inside the while loop again and execute the statements continuously. So now again, we execute this line of code, which will basically print out value, colon, and then val, which is 1. Now we increment the value of val again, so val would be now 2. 2 is still less than 5, it would do the same thing, and you get the idea. Now val gets incremented again, val is now 3. 3 is still less than 5, it's going to write this again, and val gets incremented again, so val is now 4. 4 is still less than 5, so we're going to write that down as well. And now it comes to this statement. Val is currently 4, and if we were to increment val, we'd get 5. 5 is now not less than 5. Since val is now 5, this Boolean expression does not evaluate to true. It instead evaluates to false. since this expression is now false, we are done with the while loop now, because we no longer go inside because the condition is no longer met. We can continue on after here. Now, it's asking for the value after I should say while loop. The value after the while loop has executed. So what is the value of the while loop right now? Well, it's currently 5 because it was 4 originally, remember? It was 4. As we can see, the last printed value, well, right over here, is 4. But as the program went in once more, it printed out 4, and then it incremented 4 by 1, which gives us 5. So the value after the while loop is 5. So this would print out this 5, right? Let's look at another, the last while loop in this sequence. So we have a while val is equal to 5. So is val equal to 5? Yes, because as we saw earlier, val is 5 after these series of instructions was executed. So since 5 equals 5, since 5 is equal to 5, we will go inside the while loop and execute this line of code, the only line of code. And we're basically going to print out this statement. Okay, let's now come out of the while loop. Is the condition still met? Is val still equal to 5? Well, yes. Val hasn't changed. Notice how in this for loop, val's value changed, and eventually the loop came to a stop. But with this while loop, the loop will never end, and the statement will be printed an infinite amount of times, because there is nothing done to change val's value and to make it approach a number that will make the expression not true. If we were to add val plus plus over here on the next line, just as we did over here, this line would only print out one time. However, it prints out an infinite amount of times when val is never changed inside the body of the while loop.